Hi everyone.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our YouTube channel, Sisterly Conversations, where we'll be picking a topic. And the topic is unemployment in Canada. Has it gotten worse? So, what should I say? In Canada, a lot of people think that there are so many jobs available. But when you actually migrate and come up here, or like if you lose a job, to me, sometimes it's very hard to get another job due to sometimes you are overly qualified, or sometimes it might be a case that there are no jobs available. I find there are certain months that the job market decreases because one, outside is really cold, and number two, sometimes certain jobs require registration, and if you don't have those specific requirements, then you can't be registered. Um, but I don't know if to say that there's like if the unemployment rate has decreased. What I would say is that sometimes it's very difficult to find a job. What do you think?
Um, well, what I would say is first of all, when you have a skill jobs to me are always a plus. I would say that because, um, you know, like let's out like trucking for example, or even like construction work. There's lots of construction work for sure because everywhere here has in Ontario, or I would say where we live in Ontario, have construction literally everywhere. So sometimes we call it say sometimes we say there's
Two seasons.
no it's yeah we say there's 5 seasons actually, including construction season, which is all year round.
All year round.
But um the topic of unemployment is a bit controversial. I would say that Canadians tend to say that, and I sometimes I can't blame them. They tend to say there's no jobs, and that's because there's certain set of people that tend to hire their own people. They tend to hire like only those. But everywhere you go, you see these people in these type of jobs. And this is Tim Hortons. This Tim Hortons is a Canadian company. This is Tim Hortons. This is Walmart. This is Dollarama. This is wherever else. Any fast food restaurant, any type of job like that. That's like a we will call them type of jobs, retail job, whatever. Yeah, you will usually see these type of these people, and I find people have a really big problem with that with it because it's not a case of you're mad that these people have a job, but you want that. Again, Canada is a multicultural community with all races, and you want an integration representing all races. And you can't have one place with only one type of people. It does not mean like it just doesn't cut it. You should have artists, and anybody that apply for the job should have an equal opportunity as long as they're qualified. And come on, like Tim Hortons and those places, well, you don't need much to qualify for a job, right? So, um, you should be able to have an equal opportunity of getting a job, and it shouldn't just be, oh, you're being turned on because you're not a certain race.
Correct.
But on the flip side of that, I would say that employers, some of these employers from these same companies, are very smart, and they know that the type of people they're hiring, they can do anything with them. They're coming from these countries that are over there, and they're coming and they're willing to work and accept sometimes the minimum pay that you could have, sometimes even lower than the minimum pay. The average Canadian person is not going to accept anything other than what they're supposed to accept. They're not going to come and work in a job that is paying them minimum wage or less. Like, you got to be able to pay some people a certain amount for their labor, right? And then not only that, like, benefits and any other things. These people hire the type of people that they know they can abuse and mistreat. So if you have a person that's a Canadian citizen versus somebody that is a newcomer, or they may just be a student or on a work permit or something, in some cases they might not even have any documentation at all or whatever, you might choose that person because you know that there's not much they can argue with you about, or they can't really go to court for you if you do something to abuse them. Because whenever you're working in Canada, there are rules and regulations. You are, as an employer, you're supposed to treat your workers with dignity and respect. You're supposed to make sure that they're getting a certain amount of pay, make sure they're getting treated well, make sure they're having a certain amount of whatever. And the problem comes where when is a certain type of person, they feel like they don't have to do that. They feel like they can get away with murder, right? And that's one of the biggest. That's just like when I think of the what's the what name now? Farm labor program. When I think of the farm labor program, you have these people that are coming on contracts to work as a farm laborer, picking apples or picking whatever else, and you're coming up to these people and they're packing all of them in house one house, like whatever. You have people with beds here, beds here, beds here, beds here, right? And they're getting paid a certain amount. They don't have any type of benefits. They're not getting back taxes despite the fact that they're paying taxes. They're not and because here you pay taxes on everything pretty much. They're not getting the health care that they're needed because they're not what's the word they're looking for? They're not permanent residents or citizens, so they don't have access to health care. Yet um, they're there working, right? Being exposed to chemicals. Because when they're picking these apples and things, and these people are spraying all these chemicals on these fruits and vegetables, they're being exposed to all these chemicals. And it's only a certain amount of time that you could be exposed to these things until it starts to affect your body. Same thing in factory work. You go to a factory where you're working in a coal industry, coal factory, right? Picking up chicken and picking up this and picking up that, and working, cutting, doing all these things, and you're being exposed to that coal. Some people work in a freezer, being exposed to that coal all the time. It might not affect your body in the beginning, but eventually it's going to affect you. And then they don't have health care. That's the problem. They don't have access to all the things that the average Canadian would have access to. That if they do get sick, they could take time off, or if they do get sick, they could go on EA and get unemployment benefits or whatever for health related issues or whatever, and then so I find these employers tend to avoid hiring Canadians, and that's why you hear Canadians are saying, "Oh, I can't get a job, I can't get a job, I can't get a job," because they tend to avoid hiring these Canadians because they know they can't play these type of games with people that are Canadian citizens. Can you imagine playing a game with a person that's a Canadian citizen? It means like that's a negative. But I talking a bit much, so I will let Tony continue.
Yes, took a whole session. But anyhow, there was something there that I wanted to point out that Chantel would have said earlier, saying that there are certain races that I would say are being hired. For example, I remembered when I was at my former workplace, there was this lady of a specific race. She kept hiring people who were of her race, and other people needed jobs, so they fired her.
Mm-hmm.
And her people, basically, so that people could have diversity. It's not fair that because you are black, Indian, white, Asian, it doesn't mean that you have to hire all of your race. Other people want to work too. And then I know of a situation whereby a friend of mine was telling me about how some employers, as Shanita would have rightfully said, know that it is hard back home in their home country. So what they do, they basically abuse these people because they know that they're going to want to work due to sending money back home. So there was a situation whereby one lady, they know her background, and she needed to go on vacation. Instead, they said, "Oh, we need somebody. We really need somebody to cover this shift," and she had to cancel her vacation to support the job. Now, for me, if that had made it, I going for my vacation, cause if it had died the same day, guess what would have happened? I would have certainly not cancel my vacation. And that's just me. But they know that some people have it really rough and they will abuse the situation. But yeah, as Shanita would have rightfully said, that that's why Canadians state that they don't have jobs. But here's the thing: employers know that they can't play with the Canadians. And then too, we need to speak about the Indigenous people. Um, they're Canadians, bred and born, and they get treated really, really, really badly. They should be upholding some of the jobs up here 100%, and they said they're on reserves and they're working in indigenous places, and they still need help from us immigrants, you know. um, but how is it that the indigenous people getting sorry, people getting treated bad and the indigenous people getting treated bad too, and the indigenous people are the ones that are actually from here. They are the actual full-blown Canadians.
What I would say about the indigenous people is that the indigenous people, which are like the First Nations or the Métis people and we whatever other tribe or whatever they have, they should be able to live on the reserve as their own land or whatever. A lot of the lands we live on are their lands to begin with, but they should be able to live if they choose to, because they can live wherever they want to live. Technically, like I said, a lot of the lands we live on are their lands. But if they choose to live on a specific reserve, I feel like at the end of the day, they should have access to many different things. Clean water, they should have access to health care at their fingertips. They should be able to have access to dental care at their fingertips. They should be able to have access to a lot of different things. It shouldn't be a situation where they're still suffering after all these years. And then also, other born Canadians as well. And not only born Canadians, but Canadians that have migrated here and make sure they had to go through. Again, we live in a multicultural community, a melting pot of races, different cultures, different religions, different. And we have to integrate. There's no way you should be in a position where you have a set of people taking over the entire place. Meaning, every job you see these people. Everywhere you go, you see these people. Whatever it is, it's just these people. No, it should be an integration of different people. That's just how it should be. And unfortunately, sometimes that's not the case. There's some areas that literally have just plain. You go, you want to know if you're in a different country because it's literally just the same race, and it shouldn't be like that. And I'm not somebody that discriminates against anybody, but this is a known fact here, and everybody complains about it, and it's a problem because wherever you go, you should see a mixture of people. Yes, there are going to be places where you might have mostly Indians, mostly black, mostly white, because maybe people tend to live there move there or whatever of a certain race or whatever, but it should never be like an unspoken rule where there's nobody else wants it because it's just. It should be a case where everybody feels welcome.
Right.
Everybody feels accepted. Everybody feels comfortable to be able to live as one people. That's just what it is. Should be just one people. And the jobs should be, again, as integrated by making sure that you have all types of people and not just the people that you can abuse and mistreat or the people that, are of a certain your own people. As Tony said, like it shouldn't be just be your own people. It should be who's qualified to do this job.
Exactly.
If you went to school to learn to be a doctor, it doesn't matter if you're a black doctor, a white doctor, Asian doctor, Indian doctor, Spanish, or whoever other doctor you got, indigenous, whatever. It doesn't matter. As long as you are qualified and you went through the right channels, then you should get hired as a doctor. That's just a thing. A carpenter, garbage collector, whoever. There are jobs. That's the problem. There are jobs out there that are available. But the problem comes where only certain people are being hired, and that's the problem. So, in terms of the unemployment rate, that's one of the biggest issues. This is the reason why there's unemployment, because unfortunately, these are the type of issues where only certain people are being hired. And then there are also people, let's be very honest and put it out there, that don't like to work.
True.
Let's also call a spade a spade. There are also some people that would rather sit back,
relax, and
collect a check from the government. Mm-hmm. Some people need it. Some people actually have disabilities, right? I have a medical disability that I went through for 7 years. Or about 7 years. So it's a legit thing for me. I didn't collect any disability checks. But at the end of the day, there's some people who legit have a disability, and mine is invisible or invisible medical. Some people theirs is visible, some people theirs is invisible, right? But there's some people who legit don't have a real issue, and then they just sit back and decide, oh, I don't want to work. I rather would live off of other people, or I would rather live off the government. And that in itself is also an issue as well. Because if you can get up and go and work, you should get up and go and work.
Exactly.
So that's the issue. But those are my thoughts on that situation. And I don't know if Tony have any other thoughts.
I think she need to outspoke me tonight. But it is what she says true, and I agree wholeheartedly. Anyways, guys, we want to hear your thoughts about the unemployment here in Canada or in any other country that you are living in, and let us know what you think. So please like,
share,
and subscribe. Until next time.
Bye bye.